second chance in the game.
Again, we're a base cover 4 team, but really off of our cover 4, we probably spend as much time playing what we call in our terminology 2-read or palms coverage, as it's commonly known also, really the same thing. We spend as much time playing 2-read, our 2-read concept, as we do a true cover 4, mainly when we get 2 detached receivers to his side. So the way that we teach our 2-read or our palms concepts is starting on the top end for our safeties. Our safeties are going to key number 2. Our safeties and our corners are going to key number 2 receivers. If number 2 is vertical, then the safety has got all of number 2 man-to-man. If number 2 goes out, then the safety is going to turn 45 degrees and work to get in phase with 1. If the number 2 receiver were to go in and run some sort of a shallow cross underneath the linebackers, then the safety is going to turn and sprint and try to help the post. So that's the rules for our safeties. For our corners, if number 2 is in, so if the number 2 receiver were to go in, then the corner is going to snap his eyes to 1, and he is now going to have all of 1. If the number 2 receiver were to come out, he is going to now trap the flat and take 2 out, and he'll have the out and the up of 2. If number 2 is vertical, like in this instance right here, then the corner is going to play smash rules, meaning that if number 2 is vertical, I'm going to snap my eyes to 1. If 1 hitches up, I'm going to stay over top of 1 and play underneath the 7 route or underneath the corner route of number 2. If number 1 continues vertical, so if 1 and 2 are both vertical, if I'm the corner, and this takes a lot of teaching, I think, I think this is an important concept though also, if 1 and 2 are both on a vertical stem, then if I'm the corner, I have all of 1, but I want to try to work for inside leverage to number 1 if both 1 and 2 go vertical. And the reason for that is because one of the most common cover 4 beaters or quarters beaters that you'll get is double post or dig post or something along those lines, the old Mills concept that's going to try to take advantage there. So you're not going to have post help in that. If 1 and 2 are both vertical, you're not going to have post help. And so we want to try to really stem that corner hard inside of number 1. So I think that's a really important coaching point when we're teaching this coverage. For our stud or our nickel player, he's going to line to the side in a 2x2 set. He's going to line to the side of the back. That's going to make number 3. He is going to be the curl player in our 2-read concept, or through the curl to the swing of 3, if that were to be the case. Our Mike linebacker is going to wall the inside most route, is what we tell him, wall the inside most route. And then our weak side linebacker, away from our passing strength, is going to be a wall 2 player, so he's going to wall the final 2. But if number 2 is vertical, he is going to slice through 2 and burst underneath of number 1. So if we get smash concept here to the weak side like we get right here, all right, working from safety and then outside in, safety gets a vertical of 2, so he's got all of 2. The corner gets a vertical of 2, so he's going to play smash rules, and he'll honey hole that, what we call the honey hole, if he gets a hitch of 1. And then the linebacker is going to slice through 2 and burst out to the hitch, or whatever the next inside-most route is on a vertical of 2. So that's how we would teach that. If the back stayed in and blocked, and we got the same concept here, then our nickel player would be playing the exact same slice technique that our linebacker is playing here. So here we've got a 2-by-side. All right, we've called our base coverage is what we call green in our terminology, but our players are going to communicate to each other in green coverage. We get 2 detached. They're going to play read, so they've communicated that. So here's our corner. Here's our safety. Both of these have communicated read, and this would be our slice player. That's our nickel player. He would have slice swing of 3, work to the curl. So we get a real quick exchange right here, slant flat, and so this is just an easy distribution out of this coverage. Now a couple coaching points here. What we teach our safeties in this is if 2 is out to the flat, we want our safeties, we tell our safeties that we don't tell them to work to get on top of number 1, all right? We tell them to open 45 and work to the near hip of number 1. So we still want to set that wall working from inside out, okay? So what we're trying to do here is squeeze these routes as tight as we can, all right? This is not a really high cover 2 concept right here. Now, one of the things I think is great about this, and this is where game planning comes in, is knowing who your conflict players are. Who is the offense trying to put into conflict? So for instance, in this situation right here, the back is set to our defensive right, meaning that our nickel player is the player that's in conflict. Okay, it could be the nickel, it could be potentially this defensive end. So if it were a zone read concept, then the defensive end would be the conflict player. So how do we want to play this nickel? All right, do we want to have our defensive end close and take the dive if we were to get zone read, and then have our nickel be the quarterback player, which we can do? If we do that, and that's actually how we teach it from day one, if we do that, then we're going to play these 2 players a little bit tighter in their read concept. We're going to squeeze these routes a little bit tighter, because this safety now, if we just got the simple stick RPO right there, okay, if we got the stick RPO, we would want that safety to be able to drive on that really, really quick, all right? So that would be the trade-off right there. We would tighten that down a little bit. If we get an instance in which it's not really a zone read team, the quarterback's not much of a run threat, but they are a big RPO team, what we can do that week is adjust this coverage to bring this nickel out, and we'll call him the pause player now, where he's going to sit on the stick RPO right there, and we can now deepen up the players that are playing the 2 read, the corner, and put the safety a little bit higher in that instance. So really, you can manipulate the vertical leverage of that safety in that corner depending on how you're going to play your conflict player that particular week, which usually is going to be a player set to the side of the running back. And again, for us, that just kind of comes down to game plan of whether we want to really close, chase the dive, and have a quarterback player sitting right there and we'll tighten them down, or if we want to, say, shuffle, squeeze the defensive end that week and take our conflict, our second level conflict player, our nickel player, and widen him out a little bit to take away the RPO. So you can do it however you want to there. Same instance here, we get a little bubble action, and it's really good coverage versus bubble because you get a quick break, quick visual on the bubble from the corner as they're keying number 2. Another good shot here, and this is a little wider shot so we can see both. We get mirrored routes in this case, so the coverage winds up being mirrored. So we get fade flat to both sides. So pretty good shot right here. The corner is going to come off to each side and trap the flat route. And we want both of these safeties, they should look like twins in this instance, opening 45 and driving to the near hip of the number 1 receiver, if the number 1 receiver is vertical. Our slice defenders here, which would be our nickel in this case and our weak side linebacker here, should be working to the curl. Mike is simply playing the middle hook. So if we got curl flat, if this receiver here were to curl up, then we would want the safety on top of the curl and have the slice defender or the wall 2 defender now underneath of the curl, because the curl would be the new number 2 receiver as the routes distributed themselves. Okay, another instance here where the alignment of number 2 is really tight to the formation, so we're going to take our nickel and we're going to nestle him in there pretty tight. And again, the safety and the corner both have eyes on 2. And again, fade flat again, same concept. It's an easy catch, break, gain of about 1 or 2 yards right there. Our second variation of cover 2 that we put in next is what we call cover 2 buster. And this is if our 2 read, we consider our 2 read to be a zone match concept. In other words, on the third level at the safety and corner level, we're going to match those routes, but we're going to play zone concepts underneath. Our cover 2 buster for us is really going to be a man match concept. And we like it, really, this is a coverage that we spend a lot of time teaching. We like it a lot. This is kind of our go-to coverage when we get into second and longs or third and mediums, all right? So really our thought process as we put this coverage in is that we don't want to give up a quick game. We want to take quick game away, all right, but also at the same time give safety help. And we don't want to give up those intermediate routes that are going to put the offense in a position, say if it's a second and long, to be able to have a manageable third and short, third down situation, or if it's a third and medium, be able to, to get past the stick. So we're trying to really sit hard on the underneath routes, but yet be aggressive underneath and give safety help over the top. So this is our go-to coverage in that situation, and it fits in really well with our 2 read. So here's our cover 2 buster principles versus a 2-by, and then I'll get to our trips adjustments out of this coverage here in just a few minutes. We're going to communicate 2 concepts here, and it really depends on where the distribution of the receivers. If we get a 2-by that is just a normal distribution, our call for that is a clip. So we're going to play really a true kind of cover 2 concept with the corner with safety help over the top. If 2 and 3 are close together and 1 has a pretty healthy split, then in that instance we'll make a zorro call. So I'll show examples of both of those here in a little bit. But really this is the main principle there in bold. Our underneath coverage players, which in our 2 buster are going to be our corner, our nickel or linebacker who's leveraging number 2. Those players are going to be really aggressive underneath. And we talk about if you get an in-breaking route, we want to bust in-breaking routes. Okay, we want to force the ball from the seams out right here. And if it is a second and long or third and medium, we want to try to make the offense make a difficult, lower percentage throw to be able to move the chains. We don't want to give them space underneath or in the middle of the field to be able to make easy throws and catches that are going to help them be in an advantageous situation. So we want to force the ball outside. All right, in a clip concept, which I'll go through first. In a clip, our corner, his rules are you've got number 2 to the flat. If number 2 is up or in, all right, so my eyes are through 2, I'm the corner. If number 2 is up or number 2 goes in, I am going to bust number 1 with inside leverage. In other words, I'm taking away anything inside now by the number 1 receiver. If I'm the number 2 player, if I'm the player that's leveraging number 2, I'm going to play him with inside leverage. We play all underneath players with inside leverage when we play 2 buster. Our 2 players are going to play with inside leverage. If number 2 goes out, bust 1 or cut 1. A lot of times we'll say cut 1. So if 2 goes out, cut 1. All right, so get underneath of 1. If number 2 is up or in, I've got all of number 2. I'm going to bust number 2. Whoever has number 3, and a lot of times if it's a 2-by set, it's going to be the mic on the running back. You've got all of 3, so we'll be in man coverage in that instance right there. Okay? If it's a zorro call, and again, it depends on alignment, and I'll show examples of both here. If it's a zorro call, we're going to play the 2-man game off of 2 and 3 and allow the corner to take all of number 1. And that's going to be based on with alignment distributions there. By receivers and running backs and who's going to have the easier opportunity to be able to play off of each other. Okay, so in this instance, we've got a 2-by-2. We would call clip to each side. Normal distribution here. We would call clip to each side. All underneath players, all 4 underneath players. 1, 2, 3, 4 underneath players are going to play with inside leverage, taking away inside routes first. Now here's what I really like about this coverage. is that it can, in this instance, as you look at this diagram, it winds up turning into a two deep man under concept, all right? But because it's a man match and not just a straight man coverage concept, our underneath players are playing with zone eyes. So our nickel player and our linebacker and both our corners are going to have inside eyes through the ball, all right? So they're not going to match and distribute these routes until post-snap. Once they get their pass read, now we're going to distribute the routes based on where the routes take us. So it's not a traditional, it's not two deep man under where I've got number 2 and I'm going to take number 2 wherever he goes. It doesn't work like that. I'm going to sit with inside leverage, zone eyes. Now, a lot of times in this, because the down and distance does dictate a lot of what we do and how we call this, a lot of times in this we'll tell these, in our 2 read, our palms, we'll tell our underneath players, hey, this is going to be, we're thinking more kind of 80-20 run to pass here. In this coverage, a lot of times we'll tell them when we're calling this, we're probably thinking more 60-40 pass to run here. So if you're going to lean in a certain direction here underneath, we would, lean on being able to get out and get your head around so that you can distribute these routes after we see what they're doing here. If we get fade flat or curl flat, all right? So 2 goes out, the corner is now going to trap 2, okay? The free safety is going to work over the top, all right? And we can play these free safeties a little bit deeper, play these safeties a little bit deeper. I like 2 buster because it's not a landmark cover 2. We don't really run a Tampa 2 where we landmark, safeties off the hashes and you're playing bottom of the numbers and midpoint and that sort of thing. We don't really do that in our coverage. We like this because it allows them to really play midpoints of receivers, and we don't have to necessarily give them landmarks. So our safeties and a clip call are going to start with, they're going to play midpoints of 1 and 2, and then as a receiver drops off, they're simply going to squeeze to the next receiver. So for our 2 leverage players, if 2 goes out, you're working to cut or bust 1. So if we got the curl right here, rather than the fade, safety would still be on top, and we would be working to bust the curl right there again. The linebacker has the back. Okay, what's the inherent disadvantage of this coverage? You're vacating the middle of the field here. All right, again, you're trying to take away the inside routes and the quick breaking routes, but you're also vacating the middle. So if you do have a running quarterback or something that you're concerned with right there, the best way to run this coverage would probably be as a 3-man rush with some sort of a spy like we just talked about in the last presentation, and do something along those lines. Because if you keep it as a 4-man pressure coverage, just like any man under 2 deep, you are going to be susceptible to quarterback run and things like that if quarterback wants to take off after he drops back. Now here's what also I really like about this coverage is it's a little bit better versus sail concepts than palms is, or 2 read. All right, so what you can tell a corner in this is that if you get the stem of 2, if 2's stem goes vertical, like it would in a sail, where you're going to get 1 and 2 go vertical, but 2 is going to run the deep out cut or the deep rollover out of the deep corner route. You can tell a corner, if a corner gets really good at playing this technique, you can tell him, hey, if 1 and 2 are vertical, you're going to turn and trail number 1, but get your head back around, stay under 1, but get your head back around and look for the deep out of 2. So this is a really good coverage versus sail concepts when a team wants to try to hit that deeper out cut, which can be a problematic area in quarters concept. So this is we play a lot of our quarters and a lot of our palms and 2 read, and this is a good change up to that because it gives us an answer versus that particular route, and the corner can just turn that over, the vertical of 1 over to the free safety. Now a zorro for us in this would be based on the proximity of 2 and 3. So in this case, where number 2 is a tight end and the back is set to that side, obviously this presents a couple of challenges here for us in terms of how are we can get picked off here from linebacker and swing, all right, if we were in a clip. So one of the things that we try to do is get a situation where we can banjo those 2 off. So if we got an 11 personnel grouping really that looked like this, we could still have a clip call to the detached 2 surface and over to the tight end side where this was a potential trouble spot for us, we can check zorro. Whenever we call zorro out of this coverage, the corner now knows he's got all of one. He's got all of one. So the safety sees this. The safety is the one that communicates this. And the safety is simply going to say, hey, zorro, zorro. Number 2 is attached. 3 is set to that side. And now the corner knows, okay, it's a zorro call. I've got all of one in what we call MEG coverage, or man everywhere he goes. And now your Mike linebacker and your nickel player are going to banjo off the release of number 2 and number 3 here. What you have to do in this instance, in any zorro case, you have to make sure that you've gamed something up front. Our kind of default run stunt here is something that we call cross, which is where we try to just muck things up in there and not have to give the Mike an A-gap run fit now. So we'll take him out of the run fit by running a run stunt in there in that situation, and allow the Mike to deepen up. Again, lean 60-40 past the run, so that now if he gets a vertical by the tight end, he can work to carry that vertical, and he will now be the man match player on the vertical of 2 rather than the nickel. So you have to plan for those scenarios when something like this presents itself. One of the other great things about this coverage that we really like is it gives us safety help. To a 2-by-side, it gives us safety help. It gives us deep safety help, which you don't always get in palms. If you get 2 verticals in palms or 2 read, your safeties are now matching the inside vertical. So this coverage gives us deep safety help, but at the same time, it's still, we can go back to those cover one principles that we were talking about in my last presentation, that we can take that backside safety and use him to double team an isolated X receiver if we want to. So this kind of gives us the best of both worlds in this instance, where we can, if we get an isolated receiver, we can double him with whatever technique we choose. It could be a cone, and we can still play, give deep safety help to the 2-by-side away from the double team. So again, this coverage builds you in that type of flexibility to be able to do that. In this clip, we're in our 2-buster coverage. We have made a clip call here. So we have the distribution here has allowed us to play a clip call. So we are going to take 2 in and up right here from our nickel or our stud. If 2 goes out, we're going to bust 1 or cut 1. The corner has got 2 to the flat. If 1 goes in, he's going to bust 1. If 2 is vertical, he's going to play in a trail technique. And the safety here, it's very simple rules for the safety out of 2-buster. You're going to play at whatever the predetermined depth is, 12 to 14, somewhere in that typically. And you are simply going to midpoint 1 and 2. If number 2 drops off, squeeze to 1. If number 1 drops off, squeeze to 2. It's pretty simple in how we teach this, and so it gives your safeties easy rules and allows them some freedom to play here. Again, we get post flat here to our defensive left, so you can see the corner is going to come off, and he's going to take the flat like you would in any cover 2. And now our nickel player, 2 goes out. You're going to cut 1 or bust 1. Our safety, 2 drops off, so squeeze to 1. Now, what we tell, and I think this is an important coaching point right here, is what we tell our underneath players here is you want to, if you're getting any kind of vertical route, you want to stay on the low side of the vertical. You've got help over the top. You've got help over the top. We want you between the receiver and the quarterback, okay? Because a lot of cases what they'll want to do, and we face this a lot, we fight this problem big time. In a lot of these clips you'll see, I'll try to point it out where we get too far on top of receivers. I think kids inherently are threatened by getting beat, vertically. And this is maybe one of the problems with pairing this with Palms coverage, is that in Palms coverage, they don't have help. And now you've really got to coach them up on this instance of that, hey, we've gone to 2-buster, now you've got help over the top. So we want you to be aggressive under, and we want you to stay under and stay in a trail. And that can even come in an instance where, say, the Mike is going to match the tight end, and the tight end is going to run the little Y choice or the stick route. And if the Mike gets too much on top of him, or any position really, you can get the instance where we've all seen where the tight end or the stick route or the choice route is going to throw him off and open away from him, and he's right there. So we want to stay on the low side of that, so it's much, much tougher for those players to be able to get physical and throw us off and be able to come back to the ball. I think that's an important coaching point in this. So our nickel player here does a great job of cutting one. Again, we would like to see him not be so much at this angle, but really just be patient right there. Be patient so you can stay low on the route. He winds up getting in an underneath position, but ultimately at the top, this is what we want to see. All right, we want to see a receiver that's got one over and one under. Now that ball really has to be in a pretty tight window, pretty tight space to be complete. Kind of same scenario down here at the bottom of the screen, where we get really the same route concept to the different side. Again, right here, we would prefer him just be patient. Be patient. I think it's an important thing to teachers. You've got to be patient and stay on the low side of the route. Pretty good job here up top. Again, we're in our buster concept. We're playing clip. Good job here by the two player of staying patient. Two goes out, stay patient. You don't need to be in a hurry. If that number one goes vertical, he's running right to the safety. He's running right to the safety. That safety saw two go out, so the safety's squeezing a one. So you're going to sit underneath. Don't feel like you have to be threatened right there. Be patient. And that's an awfully long throw that we're trying to get them to make there for a very minimal gain. All right, Zorro concept here. Zorro concept. So we've got two buster called. We're going to play our clip here. We're going to play our clip here, and really they're going to play inside out because of the stack, but we're still going to play a clip. Corner's going to take the outside route. The linebacker here is going to take the inside route. Okay. To the top, we have, here's one, the number 2 is now attached, and there's number 3 in the pistol. So we're going to make a Zorro call. That safety is going to make a Zorro call to that side, and that Zorro call says that now this corner is going to have all of one. He's got all of one. He's in man coverage. And we're going to play in and out off of 2 and 3 here. So we wind up getting a crossing route. We don't play this one perfect on the Zorro. We do a pretty good job on the clip side, not very good on the Zorro side. We do a great job initially. Once we get past, the Mike is now going to cut the in by 2 on the Zorro. He's got the inside. Now what I'd like to see happen is for him to just stay with that, and now our nickel player just now absorbs the running back. That would be the best way for us to play this. Both of them kind of wind up coming off and chasing. But I think you can see where initially, if we'd stayed there, that would have been the scenario that we want. Now, pretty good job here on the bust right here. Again, this is where the concept comes in of man match. We're not playing zone over here. We're playing man match concept. So you have got to, if you get an in-breaking route, you've got to carry that thing all the way across. You have no flat defender. There's no rat player. There's no help to the opposite side or anywhere inside of you. So you have to really make sure that you carry that thing all the way across the field. So it's a pretty good job here. Interior right there, and he's just got to match that thing, and he's got to keep carrying and keep carrying and keep carrying and keep carrying. Does a pretty good job there for an incompletion. So that's kind of what we're looking for in our man match concepts. You can see the safety here. Good job by the safety. 2 leaves. 2 goes in. So now the safety is going to work to squeeze over 1. Okay, trips. Now, if we're in our 2 buster concept and we get trips, all right, we've got two adjustments that we run. One is called poach and one is called karate. In our poach concept, it basically, it's going to work the same way as a clip would. Okay, we're going to call either clip, we could call a zorro. There's really no change. The only thing we're going to do here is that if we call a clip, the number 3 receiver in trips, the linebacker is going to have him man-to-man. All right, he's going to have him man-to-man. Now, what we have to do there, because we're not comfortable putting a linebacker man-to-man on a number 3, it could be a speed player. We're not comfortable with that. We're going to take the backside safety and we're going to work what we call a poach technique with him, meaning that we're going to push him to help that number 3, to help on that number 3 receiver if the number 3 receiver runs that cross vertical that comes back to the opposite hash. All right, so the way it's going to work, if we get 4 verticals, our free safety is going to play the midpoint of 1 and 2, just like he would if it were a 2 receiver surface. Our backside safety, our bandit or our weak safety, is now going to play the cross vertical of 3 to the back to the vertical of number 1 to the ISO side. So it would look something like this. Okay, so if we get the cross vertical here, the linebacker is going to, again, stay low, force that route to go on top of you. We want that route, you want to stay on the low hip. We want to force that route to go over the top of us and bend around us so you can get poach help right here, okay? And again, in this instance, it's going to look just like a clip, all right? We're going to pretend like this number 3 receiver does not exist as far as this nickel and this corner are concerned, and really as far as the free safety is concerned as well, okay? Away from when we play a poach, away from the poach, our corner knows that he's in man coverage. He's got that number 1 receiver everywhere he goes. If we're playing a poach technique and 2 and 3 are close together, not number 1, we'll just make the zorro call. Nothing really changes, but now we're going to play in and out off of 2 and 3, and now both corners would be in this what we call meg concept. Man, you're in man coverage. You've got number 1 receiver everywhere he goes, but it really wouldn't change what we do on the top of this with the safeties. Okay, good shot here. 2 busters the call, we get trips, and so this is a game planning situation. You know, so we'll go in Monday to our install meetings with our defensive players. We'll say, okay, guys, hey, this week when we call 2 buster, if we get trips, all right, to the 3 bye, we're going to poach the safeties. Okay, we're going to play poach. All right. Now it's going to be, you know, what we want you guys to do is we want you just to look. If you can play clip, if the distribution is equal, okay, if it's equidistant, go ahead and play clip. In this case, as you look at this, 2 and 3 are close together, and there's obviously a different distribution. So, okay, we're still going to play poach. But we're going to make a zorro call underneath. So this corner is now going to have number 1 everywhere he goes. This corner is going to have number 1. We're going to play in and out with zone eyes off of 2 and 3. This safety is going to midpoint 1 and 2, and this safety is going to look to help to poach 3 if 3 goes vertical. Now, one of the things we'll do on occasion, because it is a man-under concept after the ball is snapped, since our linebacker, our Mike linebacker has the back, we will, and again, this is a game planning situation, but it gives you the flexibility to do whatever you want to with him. In some cases, if it's not a team that's really going to throw a whole lot of screen to the back, we'll say, hey, you can green dog this back this week, which means that you can go ahead and blitz engage this guy and rush through the back. If by the time you get there, the back hasn't released, then go ahead and cut yourself loose to get extra pressure on the quarterback. So in this case, we wind up getting a sack from the Mike linebacker just by blitz engaging through the running back who he has in man coverage anyway. So it kind of, you're playing man under 2 deep. It gives you a lot of good concepts here. You're playing with zone eyes. You get to post snap match it as man under 2 deep, and the potential is there to add 5 into the pressure if the offense allows you to. All right, our second trips adjustment in our 2 buster concept is what we call karate. All right, so this is the one that we'll go to if we have a team that we're playing and they like to take their best receiver, again, like we said in the last presentation, we try to take that best receiver out of the game as best we can and have multiple ways of doing it. If they like to take their best receiver and isolate him away from the 3-by side, then that week our go-to trips adjustment will come and tell the guys, hey, we're playing karate this week, which for us means, hey, we're going to chop it in half, all right? And we're not going to poach the backside safety. We're going to keep the 2 safeties high, even versus a 3-by-1, okay, even versus a 3-by-1. It's an automatic zorro for us, which again, what that means is that our corner to the trip side is in man coverage, okay? We're gonna put him on that number 1 to trips, all right? And we're gonna push the safeties now back away from the trips towards the 1 receiver side, all right? Our free safety now, instead of midpointing 1 and 2, he's now gonna push in midpoint 2 and 3. So our karate check to trips out of 2 buster would look like this. The corner would have all of 1. All right, we're going to play in and out off of 2 and 3 between the linebacker and the nickel. We still have the back man-to-man. Now the free safety, we're not going to worry about number 1. So we're going to take the number 1 receiver 2 trips out of the count here. He's out of the count. We're playing 10 on 10. And it allows us to take the backside safety, our bandit or our weak safety. It allows us to play a number of different games with him, okay? We can keep him high. We can roll him down as an extra run fitter, or we can, like I said, if this guy is a pretty important player in their offense and they like to isolate him, we can also now run some of our double variations the same way that we do in our cover 1 double variations that I covered in the last presentation. So there's a lot of carryover now. Now we're teaching from A to B to C. It's a very linear way of teaching our coverages and how we want to match against receivers. All right, so here's a 3-by-1 that we have made a karate check to. All right, we've made a karate check. So we're going to double this receiver right here with our corner, and our bandit is going to be on top of him. This would be a hat concept for us, where we're going to have 1 right on front and 1 on top. All right, we're now playing a zorro whenever we karate. Safeties, we chop it in half, and the safeties stay on their side. We automatically play a zorro. Okay, so we tell our free safety that week, hey, we're going to play karate. We call 2 buster. We get trips. We're playing karate. We're playing karate. You're automatically going to make a zorro call. It's automatically going to come along with it. So we're going to allow him to take number 1, the corner, and we're just going to simply take him out, and we are going to work these 2 underneath defenders off of 2 and 3, and now our free safety is going to work this midpoint of number 2 and number 3 rather than number 1. So here, 3 goes vertical. Again, if 3 is up, you are busting 3. Again, we would like to see him not be, this is kind of a common refrain here. We've got to do a better job of teaching this. We'd like to see him not so much on top. We'd like to see him be more patient right there, okay, and allow the route to come to him. Okay, same concept, 3-by-1. All right, we've got our karate check here. It allows our weak safety to stay back here to the 1-by side, and we are going to cone the number 1 receiver back here. So again, we're going to double him and take him away. We're going to forget about number 1 here and push our safety to the trips. He's going to push in between 2 and 3. So you can see the cones start to develop here, right? Corner's on top. Safety's going to be inside, and he's going to take any kind of in-breaking route. He's going to trail the vertical, stay under and trail the vertical. And now here, we're going to play a 2-man game off of these 2 receivers. Again, 3 comes inside. We would prefer to see this player be on this hip. But the ball does get overthrown. Again, the safety's pushing towards 3, 2 drops off, 2 goes out. Safety push over top of 3. We get an overthrown ball, and then the safety's right there to make the interception. Okay, same concept here. Karate check. We've got a zorro. Corner has all of 1. We're going to cone the receiver. That's isolated right here. So this is a really good situation here to run a cone, which they're getting this kind of split, which is, you know, I mean, as we know, you're going to get the glance or we're going to get the slant or something along those lines. So you're taking that away. Now, great shot here, okay? For the outside receiver, for the outside defender in the zorro, 3 goes out. So I'm going to take 3. If I'm the inside defender on the zorro, 3 goes out, bust 2 or cut 2. So you can see 3 goes out. He's going to work to bust 2, and the number 2 receiver, they're running a little sucker route off of the screen here, but it gives the safety right over the top of that. He's going to squeeze to the only vertical there, and again, he's right there in a good position to be able to make a play on the ball. So these are the 2 types of cover 2 that we run. I think they fit in well together, and they allow us to, again, carry over a lot of these man principles that we run with our zone principles, and you can kind of put it all together. We run our palms coverage, which is our base install. Then we move on to our cover 1 variations, and then we get to our 2 buster, and there's a lot of carryover. We're just kind of putting all those pieces together, and like I said, I think the best part about it as a coach is that it allows you to teach your concepts in a very linear fashion, so that hopefully it's easier to remember for the kids, and allows you to give a lot of different options for you as a coach when it comes to game planning.